To prepare for this first day of football, I've been watching MasterChef.
This is the worst!
Welcome into this first day of football. We are back, baby. Not that we went anywhere. My gosh, it is good to have real football back. I am not going to fuck around. We are going to find out. We've got a special guest today. Welcome back to the show. Too much, Brian? Never too much.
1, 2, I got big booty bitches, big booty bitches. I got big booty bitches, big booty bitches. I got big booty bitches, big booty bitches.
What's up, Jax? Thanks for having me back, man. I'm so pumped to be doing this on week 1 with you.
Man, I'm so glad that you joined me for this so that I didn't have to do it all by myself. So thank you so much for coming in. Before we start with the matchups and getting right into our start sits and favorite matchups of the week, just tell the fine folks where we find you.
Well, look no farther than the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I will be dropping 5 shows a week there, including my live stream on Tuesday. Yeah, it's wild and crazy out there. Me and Brennan on the Too Much Fantasy Football Show. If you're looking, you can't get enough of that, you can find me over on the QB List podcast. And of course, my non-football content, Too Much Shenanigans and Too Much Movie Night.
How are you managing 5 nights a week? That's insane. I'm going up to 3, and I feel like I'm going to rip my hair out. So you guys
I'm recording about 16 episodes a week right now. This is my 3rd one of the day. I'm all for it. This is what I'm here for. Let's football.
All right. Well, yeah, let's just get right into football. Let's not pussyfoot around here. It's Thursday night football. We're back, baby. It's better than ever. Ravens at Chiefs. But before we get into the actual matchups, let's just get a quick overview. Give me your 2 to 3 favorite matchups. Don't tell me why. We'll talk about it later. But your 2 to 3 favorite matchups that you're targeting for fantasy football just off the bat. Go.
Texans Colts. I know I got Colts stuff galore behind me, but that 48.5 point over under, how can you not just froth at the mouth at that? And then Rams and Lions on Sunday night. Stafford's going home again. But yeah, it's really just that 52.5 point. Yeah, you see what's driving me. It's points. That's what we want here in fantasy football.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of mine are the same way. Jags at Dolphins, high over under there. I've been doing a lot of that on the daily stuff for underdog. Dallas at Cleveland, low over under, but I actually think that's going to be more of a surprising one. That's my dark horse. And then Rams at Detroit. That one is going to be just money, baby. It's a dome game. Stafford returning to Detroit. Yeah, I think that's going to be a crazy game too. So I'm very excited to talk about these matchups. So basically what we're doing, I do it a little more informal on this show. We go through the matchups and our start sits at the same time. And so we're just going to kick it off, baby. And we are all smiles as we head into, like I mentioned, Ravens at Chiefs tonight. Thursday night football, the first taste of real NFL football. And we are so back. It is tonight at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're bitching about watching it on Peacock, go fuck yourself, because it's actually super convenient for me, who watches all of my WWE shit on there right now. I saw the subscription. So I'm just glad I don't have to pirate this shit tonight. So yeah, you know what? What do you feel about Ravens Chiefs? Who are we targeting here? Everybody? Nobody?
I mean, I feel like outside of the big guys, it's really nobody I'm afraid of here. Flowers and Mark Andrews on the Ravens, definitely looking over there. I'm not playing Isaiah Likely, but I'm interested with all this 12 personnel talk. How much is he really involved, alongside as Mark Andrews? And then on the Chiefs side, it's it's all about Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. But then we've got Xavier Worthy. We've got the rookie. We've got the new 40 record guy going out there. Am I expecting a lot from him starting him this week? Not really, but I'm excited. I'm excited. Could he drop a Sammy Watkins game on us? Absolutely.
That's kind of where I'm going with this because I think it's obvious Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco in, Lamar, Mandrews, Henry in. So it comes down to the wide receivers. I think Rashee Rice is in. That's pretty obvious. But Xavier Worthy, what is the bar of wide receiver that you're willing to play him over? I've got leagues. It really depends, I feel like, on format too, because like there's dynasty leagues I'm in where they're deep enough that I'm definitely throwing Xavier Worthy into my lineup week 1, hoping that he just has like a really big, huge shot down the field and gets some points. Hey, shout out to Face Football Advice Network. What's up, guys? But yeah, Xavier Worthy, who I think I would start over pretty much every Ravens wide receiver. I actually think I see him at the same level as Zay Flowers, basically. I think Flowers is a little more on the consistent side, but I think the boom is with Worthy. So where's your bar on how high you would start him over who?
I think it kind of comes down to what situation. If your team's going into it like an underdog, I think I'd look more to play him. If you're looking, kind of an even playoff match, maybe see what else you have out there. I'd play him over like Josh Palmer from the Chargers, Jameson Williams, Ladd McConkey, Khalil Shakir. Those are kind of the guys I'd play him over. Deontay Johnson, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton. I think I'm taking all of those guys ahead of him, though.
I think that's one more thing I'll say before we move on, because there's not a lot to say about this match. I did also fuck up already off the bat. Classic worst fantasy show. Forgot to mention the over-under total for this game. I pulled these all off of RotoWire, which collected them from FanDuel, DraftKings, and a couple others. But 47.5 was the over-under for this game. I actually think it's going to hit the under. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. First game of the NFL season, I feel like always kind of disappoints us.
It's a Thursday.
50 burger. It's a Thursday game. Exactly. Like, I think, this could be like a 23-20 type of game. But yeah, I think the last thing I'll say, Worthy, I would play if I really need the boom. Like, if I have all consistent wide receivers, that's where I'm trying to stick him in my lineup in the flex. But if I have like Christian Watson and maybe like some other question marks at wide receiver, like I definitely would go with a more consistent guy instead.
100%. 100%.
All right, let's move on to the Friday night game. So this is where in totality most of my DFS on Underdog is between the Thursday and Friday game right now. All the Puntapaloozas I've been doing, I've been rocking them all day yesterday too. But yeah, 49.5 total over under. Packers at Eagles. I mean, this is just start every piece that you can, basically. Like for redraft, I think you end at like the Dontavian Wicks of the world and like the Jahan Dotson, but like everybody else is in your lineup, right?
For sure. Yeah, 100%. You got to feel pretty confident with these guys. You did last year as well. I think with this Kellen Moore offense that's coming to Philadelphia, I'm really excited to see who the slot guy is. We saw when Kellen Moore had CD in the slot, absolutely destroyed. Last year before Keenan Allen got hurt in L.A., Keenan Allen was just, I think, wide receiver 6 before he got hurt. So that slot position is very valuable in Kellen Moore's offense. So, yeah, outside of that, I love the Packers receivers. Jaden Reed, I think, is going to get a little bit more work on the ground just because Josh Jacobs is the only viable running back at this point. And Christian Watson got a little bit of a man crush on him here. I have been just following him all season. He hasn't been hurt since May. That's the first time since he was in Pee Wee football that he hasn't been hurt in 3 months. So I think this is the year. I think he's going to play more games than not. And give me some Christian Watson this 38.5 is his over under for yards.
I've been smashing him in all the DFS plays because I don't have a ton of him in the season-long formats because of I got burned really bad last year by the injury stuff. So I feel like I was a little more hesitant. But in the DFS, I've been absolutely smashing Christian Watson. I think he's when he does play, he's the one. So I love that play. The only one I wanted to ask about here really is in the tight end room now, and it's not Dallas Middert, who's the most mid tight end that's ever existed. But actually, on the flip side, is Luke Musgrave playable? And I'm going to ask this in the context of like in a Scott Fishbowl format. You know, I kind of fucked up and I messed up punted tight end, and now I ended up with Brock Bowers. Let's just pretend that my tight end 2 was Musgrave. Now, Bowers has said he's going to play. Who are you more comfortable playing week 1, Musgrave or Bowers?
I'll take Musgrave all day. I just dropped a tight end streaming article recently, and Musgrave was one of the highlights of it. Is if you're looking for somebody, if you punted the tight end like Jack did over here, I think Musgrave is a great option. I think that this game, it's a 49-point over-under. I think they're going to hit the over. We're going to go wild down in Brazil. We're going to party it up with some touchdowns. And Musgrave's definitely a guy that can, I think he can pull one in for us. Over Goddard. I take him over Goddard.
I hope they come out in all white unis or all black. Like, I don't know what they're doing with picking 2 green teams to play in Brazil. Shout out to Disco/Big Draft Energy. Apparently those are like gang colors down there. Like, you may as well go to South Central LA and have like the Buffalo Bills versus the Arizona Cardinals.
Right?
Like, just no fucking sense of it. And it's funny because I've heard it argued that it's like, oh, well, they wanted to match the Brazilian flag. I'm like, yeah, okay, that you clearly don't know fucking anything about the place and the color. Like, you didn't know. That's the most surface level shit I've ever heard of.
Right.
Match their flag. All right, let's just move on. We're not here to talk politics. We're here to talk football, baby.
Football.
But hey, before we get into the Sunday matchups, I just want to shout out all 11 eyeballs watching in the top little corner there. If any of you guys have start-sit questions or any other questions of any kind, feel free to drop them in the comments. We'll hit them along the way in between the matchups. All right, let's get into Sunday. We have, I just kind of put these in the order that they came up when I was pulling up the research for it. But we'll start with Steelers at Falcons. 42.5-point over-under. So kind of on the lower end here. The Steelers, people keep asking me about my Steelers, and I'm like, I've only got bad news for everybody. So maybe you, as an outsider, can say, who are you starting on the Steelers side? I think the Falcons are a little more obvious in this context, assuming health for Kyle Pitts. So yeah, on the Steelers side, what's your call here?
So honestly, I'm not afraid of the running backs for the Steelers. Arthur Smith had no quarterback last year, and he made running backs viable. So I think it's going to happen again. I have a pretty good chunk of Najee Harris across all formats, whether it be redraft, dynasty, or best ball for me. Jaylen Warren, I've never really been a huge Jaylen Warren guy, but I do think he'll be involved, and he'll take away with some points. Russell Wilson, though, just popped up today with another calf, or not another calf injury, but with the calf injury. He's still seeing something's looming. I remember it was like early July-ish. He was kind of talking about it. It was like a joke that he like rolled out of bed funny or something like that. But as you can see with this Andrew Luck jersey, I understand calf injuries and how they can take out your quarterback here. So we might get Justin Fields sooner than we thought, folks. Who knows? You know, first quarter, he stretches a little too much. Who knows? But Pickens, I'm scared. I'd start him as a wide receiver 3. He's got upside. He definitely does. He's really the only guy out there that's catching balls. But I will say on the other side, Darnell Mooney. I'm interested in Mooney this year, especially in this game. With Joey Porter, who knows if he's going to be shadowing Drake London, but another very low, I think it's like 32.5 yards for Darnell Mooney. Nice little play there.
I like Mooney as kind of a DFS dart throw, or if you're in a bit of a deeper league and you are, someone who drafted Jonathan Brooks, for example, and you've got that extra spot open on your bench, maybe throw Darnell Mooney on there and see if he performs. Anything else you want to talk about in this game?
Let's go points. Give me some points.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Cardinals at Bills. So I actually didn't talk about off the top of the show. We highlighted early our favorite matchups. This is sneakily, I think, one of my least favorite matchups. And I think this is one that has a high points over under 48.5. I think it's going to hit the under. I think this is going to be kind of a gross game. Again, that people are not wanting or expecting. It's in Buffalo, which I hate. If this was in Arizona, I'd feel a little bit differently. But this Joe Brady offense is going to run the air out of the ball, and a healthy James Conner is also going to run the air out of the ball. And if both teams are doing that shit, this is, I think, going to be one of those games that kind of ends earlier than people expected. You could see a score of like 20-17, like just a good, hard-fought football game. But I don't know that necessarily this is actually going to be for fantasy what people want it to be, especially when you talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. and the two tight ends involved in Keon Coleman. Like I'm fading the rookie wide receivers for sure. I think you're forced to play with the tight ends because of the capital that you paid for them. I just maybe would temper my expectations. Are you feeling the same way, more lukewarm about this game, or are you feeling hot and bothered?
I'm right there with you. Bills are favored 6.5 points. I'll take that. I'd probably flirt with the Cardinals money line, but for them to cover at 6.5 points, I love that. I think there's a better than not chance that the Bills fall flat this year. I just wasn't impressed with them last year, and I wasn't impressed with their revitalization that they had in the second half. I kind of thought it was Josh Allen carrying the team, and I don't think he's as good as Patrick Mahomes. Like, when Mahomes lost his number one target, it wasn't great, but he was able to pull it off. And I don't know if Josh Allen's going to be able to carry this team the way we saw Mahomes do it that first year after Hill left. I will say McBride. I love McBride this week, especially in DFS. Matt Milano, the linebacker for the Bills, went down, bicep injury. Last year when he missed, I guess last year when Matt Milano was in, it was 0 touchdowns to the tight end across the middle of the field and 5 interceptions, versus when he was gone, it was 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So there's a huge difference when he's off the field for the tight end. So let's go McBride.
Okay, that is a really good, juicy little tidbit for McBride there. I'm with you on the Bills. I've been the one kind of tooting the horn all offseason that I think Josh Allen is going to fall off this year in terms of, like, I don't think he finishes top 5 in fantasy has been kind of my safe prediction. I've been, when people have asked for, what's your fucking hot take? It's I don't really do hot takes very often, but like I guess my hot take would be I think he could fall as far as out of the top 10. Like I look at last year, he had 18 interceptions, and he was really floated by the 15 rushing touchdowns. If those kind of come down to 7 or 8, like I think it could end up being like a really gross fantasy season for Josh Allen, but maybe he proves me wrong. But I've been kind of fading him this year.
I like it. I like the call.
All right. Titans at Bears. Tennessee Titans at the Chicago Bears, 45.5 point total over under. The debut of one Caleb Williams. So what are we thinking here for Bears at Titans?
I'm excited for the running backs over on Tennessee. I'm a big Tajay Spears guy this year, but I think both are going to give us pretty good numbers. I saw on Taylor Lewan's podcast, evidently DeAndre Hopkins is not playing. He hasn't been announced out yet, but Taylor Lewan was pretty adamant that D-Hop is out, so really seems like he's going to just get peppered with targets. As far as the receivers on the other end, DJ Moore, I think he's a wide receiver 2, because he's either going to give you a wide receiver 1 finish this week or a wide receiver 3 finish this week, and I don't think it's going to be anywhere in between. This guy is a boom-bust fella. Keenan Allen should soak up some targets, so PPR, he should be good, and Odunze, I think you're playing the touchdown game with him in week 1.
Yeah, I have ass tons of DJ Moore, I think is the scientific word for the exposure rate. I
have seen that.
For yes. DJ Moore is metric ass ton. I've literally got so much DJ Moore, and I've got him in redraft leagues. I've got him in keeper leagues. I've got him in dynasty. I have DJ Moore everywhere. I love DJ Moore. And kind of what you talked about, like I'm okay with, finish either as the wide receiver 1 or the wide receiver 3, but do the wide receiver 1 like 10 or 11 times, and I'm good.
I was going to say, when he hits, he hits. We saw him take, a handful of screens last year all the way to the house, so yeah. I'm not too concerned with him.
And I actually think that adding Keenan Allen and Roma Dunes, where you have to account for those players behind him, makes him even that much more dangerous. Where it's like, good luck if he does get any kind of open space, because you also are trying to cover Keenan Allen and Roma Dunes. But you touched on the running backs. Tajay snap percentage Spears is not a thing. I'm afraid to tell you that. He had 9 attempts for 8 yards last year. He has tremendous opportunity. He just never does anything with that opportunity. And Tony Pollard is a better running back than he is.
Boo.
Yeah, sorry.
Boo.
The Bears running backs, I think, are really interesting because I don't think DeAndre Swift is that good. I liked him a lot when he went to Philadelphia because I think Philadelphia is excellent. But DeAndre Swift always goes down at the first sign of contact. And the other problem I have is, obviously before last year and even kind of last year with Philly, he's always struggled with injuries. So, do you like Khalil Herbert or do you like Roschon Johnson back there?
Roschon, my best ball exposure. Roschon Johnson is an unhealthy amount. If we're talking week 1, it's definitely going to be Swift for me if I have to start one of these guys. But long term, I think it's going to be Roschon Johnson over the season. Swift, I don't, like you said, with the injury history and just his performance in general, I just don't know if I'm going to see him, week in and week out hold that spot for you.
All right, let's move into one of the most fun games of the entire week. The New England Patriots at the Cincinnati Bengals. 41.5 over under. My God. Just pumping out the points here. Does Jamar Chase play?
I hope so.
And if he plays, honestly, do you even want to play him this week specifically? I mean, it is New England. I know Belichick's not there anymore, but it's still like, does that still loom large of New England, regardless of whether Belichick or Mayo or whoever, do they still take out your number one option that well? And even if that's not the case, Chase, having missed all of training camp, all of preseason, does he just walk onto the field and pop 100 plus and a couple a tutty or two? Like, does he even play at all? And I'm not gonna lie, I've been betting a lot. I am the known T. Higgins hater. I don't think there's anybody that hates T. Higgins for fantasy football more than I do. And I have been taking a fuck ton of him. Now we've gone up from ass ton to fuck ton. So that's just to tell you, we are increasing the exposure rate even on T. Higgins this week in DFS. Because I have a sneaky feeling that even if Chase plays, this is a T. Higgins week. So what do you think about that?
Well, my biggest fear is the little notification I got just not too long ago. Both of these guys were limited at practice. T. Higgins with the hamstring injury and Jamar Chase with rest is what they called it. I don't know. T. Higgins and his hamstring, he is almost to Christian Kirk levels when it comes to that. I understand the hate just because he hurts you there, but if they're out there, you have to play Chase for sure if he's out there. Higgins, I wouldn't doubt anybody with this hamstring news popping up. We're going to see if he practices tomorrow. That's going to be a big deal on how that works, but I wouldn't doubt anybody for sitting T. Higgins just because the amount of times he goes out there and will play a handful of snaps and then lets you down because of that injury. I don't know. That's a hard one for me.
Okay, so let me ask you another question then. Is there a Patriots non-running back that you are willing to play this week?
I'd be willing to stream Hunter Henry if you're in that position, like a Kyle Pitts, you're holding on to Kyle Pitts to see if he plays or not. So, maybe you have to make a game time pivot. I don't hate Hunter Henry just because the ball's got to go somewhere, and Brissett at least knows how to get rid of it, so he's probably going to get rid of it to Hunter Henry. He'll probably have 5-6 catches for 50-ish yards, maybe 48 yards, somewhere in the 40s, but it's the touchdown you're hoping he gets. Their implied team total's not even 2 touchdowns. So I think if one touchdown goes to somebody, it's either going to be Stevenson or Henry. And do you want to make that gamble?
Not really. I mean, I've got something else I want to say about this game, but gonna keep it for later because it's gonna come up in a different segment. All right. This is probably the game that you're going to be most interested in, I would assume. Houston Texans at Indianapolis Colts. You said earlier 48.5. I had it at 49.5 even.
Nice.
Total points over under. This is, I think, fire up everybody except on the Colts. I'm not fucking around with anyone that isn't named. Like, for me, it's A-Rich, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, end of list. Like, I'm not messing around with wide receiver twos here. I'm not touching any tight ends. Like, it's those three guys are bust for me. And then on the Texans side, I think that's where it's like, honestly, I would play everyone, even Dalton Schultz, honestly, if you're in a deep enough league.
Dalton Schultz, I don't know. With those three receivers, though, I just don't know if he's going to get the amount of like the targets that you want to see. Are you where's Diggs? I guess for you, is he 1, 2, or 3 out of those Texan receivers?
I've gone so back and forth with it. I have him technically as 1, but from the 2 spot, if that makes any sense. Like, to me, in my mind, the way that they're going to run the offense is that Nico Collins is just de facto on the outside. Like, he is either going to be on the right or on the left, whether it's X or Y. He is just the outside wide receiver. That's his role. Diggs, he kind of reminds me of Antonio Brown. And the reason I say that is because back in the day with the Steelers, the way that the Steelers run their offense is actually a little similar to what the Texans do when they are in 3 wide receiver sets. It's that the primary travels in those formations, and a lot of times ends up in the slot, right? So you'll end up with like your primary is actually in the slot running posts, or like these like fancy corner posts, or like all kinds of shit where it's like you're getting them open over the middle because you're stretching the field on the outside with a Nico Collins and a Tank Dell that you have to respect, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just talking about who I think is going to end up being open a lot of the time in that middle of the field and just going to come out of every fucking game with 6 to 8 receptions, it's Diggs. I think Nico and Dell are kind of big play guys, but I think Nico kind of, because of his size, because of his ability to high point the ball, the contested catch rate, for all of those reasons, I think he's going to edge out Tank Dell. I think he, again, kind of has his own role. And I think Diggs is a superior wide receiver to Tank Dell. As much as I think Tank Dell is talented, he is a little bit itty-bitty. He is like more of like a gadget fast guy. Diggs is very much like an elite all-around wide receiver. And I think that's getting overlooked because of the diva issues. Like, you don't just land in fucking Buffalo and pop for 1,500 yards your first year for shits and giggles. Like,
it was like 10 years ago, though.
Yeah, it was like 4 years ago. And Josh Allen, by the way, it's overlooked that Josh Allen as a passer has declined every year since then too. So, and then last year then they brought in Joe Brady, who's like honestly archaic in terms of running an offense. And yeah, of course, Diggs had a bad stretch down the season. He still finished with over 1,000 yards. He's on a contract here this year, basically. And he's going to be playing out of spite with C.J. Stroud. Like, I think he's going to smash this year. I do think he's going to have like, I would say like 80 for 1,207-ish.
For my best ball exposure, I hope not. I did not draft him in a single draft this year, I don't think. Tons of Nico, tons of Tank.
Dell. I faded Tank Dell. To me,
he was my favorite. He was the cheapest.
Coming off the injury and everything, and he's so. To me, it is more of a gadget play with Tank Dell, where it's like he is more the type of guy that, because you can't really put him like in line on the goal line and that kind of shit because he will get hurt. Like, so I feel like that kind of, in a sense, reduces what he's able to do.
I get that.
All right. Before we get to our next matchup here, we got a question in the chat from Mako J37. Start to full PPR. Chase, Olave, Jaden Reed, and Tank Dell, who we were just talking about. So obviously you said if Chase is in, Chase plays. I actually think that for this week, regardless of what Chase does, I might be bold enough to put Olave and Jaden Reed in. Because I feel like Olave's got the matchup with the Panthers. He's the only game in town. So that to me is locked. As like that's the two. No, like if you want to put Chase in, that's fine. If you want to put in whoever ever. But like to me, Olave, as much as I've not drafted him and haven't been that high on him, this is the matchup. It's the Panthers week 1. So Olave for me is locked in. And obviously, if Chase is out, then I just go Jaden Reed as my 2. But I actually think I might go Olave and Jaden Reed just right off the bat. Like the Eagles' defense is really good in the front 7, but where they can be had is in that defensive back room. And I think, Watson is going to be playing as the 1 and Reed is going to be playing as the 2. I think Reed's going to smash.
Oh, man. But Tank in that against the Colts secondary with that high over-under. I think I might go Reed and Tank. I don't know if that's just me leaning into the over-unders there, the point possibilities there, but God, that Olave, that Saints game against the Panthers, it just doesn't get me too excited, you know?
Definitely more of a Robitussin play, but that's the one where I'm like, there's no way he doesn't get 6 to 7 receptions for 100 yards. Like, who else?
I'm excited to see him in this new offense too. You know, they're bringing QBX bringing over a Shanahan system, so a little bit more some motion before the ball. You know, give me Olave Tank. Damn it, Olave Tank.
I convinced you. All right, we'll do one more question. We got Bryce in the chat asking PPR. Pick 2, Drake London, Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers. This is an easy one for me. Zay Flowers is staying on my bench. Mark Andrews is healthy. The splits with Mark Andrews have always been more negative for Zay Flowers. I'm going with Drake London and Devonta Smith pretty easily. What about you?
Zay Flowers blew up in the playoffs against the Chiefs, but that was with a Mark Andrews coming off the injury. I believe it was 2 catches for 15 yards. He wasn't a threat. And the way that the Chiefs play Lamar, they do a one high safety. You know, leaving the ability. You know, they keep Lamar from breaking out, and they keep it all close, keep it hugged in. So I think that Zay has a chance to kind of maybe slip out a good handful of catches, but no, I'd go with the other 2. Give me some London action. Oh, can't wait for that.
Yeah, London fallen. All right. Probably my favorite game of the week. I've been targeting the fuck out of this game in DFS. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Miami Dolphins, 49.5 point over under. I love the Trevor Lawrence rebound year. I think Evan Ingram is my favorite tight end this year in terms of his average draft position, the cost that he was going at. Even in DFS, he's going after. He was going even after Kyle Pitts. And that was with the Kyle Pitts news attached. Still, he was going. This man is disrespected out here in preseason games, catching 2 touchdowns. I think Evan Ingram is the primary target in this offense. You talk about you want the tight end that is the second target. Nah, he is number 1. That's who Trevor Lawrence looks for. That's his guy. It's Evan Ingram, and then he's looking for Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas and maybe Gabe Davis and his 50% catch rate career, and ETN out of the backfield. Like, it is Evan Ingram is the guy in this offense. And I love this matchup for him. I'm willing to play Brian Thomas Jr. in this matchup just because, again, if it turns into a track meet, I think he could have a monstrous rookie opening game. Obviously for Miami, Tyreek, Waddle, assuming that they're in, you're playing both. I would play both running backs, A-Shane and Mostert. I'm staying away from Malik Washington and Wright. As much as I love those guys, I need to see how they're even involved in the offense first. And I'm not fucking around with the tight ends in either case, really.
Did you see Jonnu Smith was listed as a fullback on ESPN?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of bullshit they're doing. That's like some Shanahanigans, honestly. Like, but it's funny because like Jonnu is capable of doing stuff like that. But
Oh, yeah.
it's just stupid. They're just that to me is like, oh, we just really like Durham Smythe as a block, like as a pure blocker. Like we're just gonna put Jonnu everywhere. Like that's what you're telling me there. But is there anything I missed that you would really want to talk about in this game?
Nah, just following up on the singing the praises of Brian Thomas. I think he's a great DFS play as well this week. I think that, give you a huge upside.
Yeah, he might be my most drafted rookie, honestly. Now that all is said and done, like in a lot of the redrafts, even that I was doing, when it would come around to like round 9 and Brian Thomas was still there, it's like hooting and hollering. I was like, holy fuck, I can't believe I'm getting this guy. As like, even I just did the Megala Bowl draft yesterday, and I got him as my wide receiver 3. And you only have to start 2 wide receivers in that league. So I was like, hot damn, Brian Thomas Jr. Like, to me, that's the only, like, him, Neighbors, and MHJ are all locked in for like 1,007. It's just, can they outperform that even? And the thing with Brian Thomas is he's the only one with the ADP that makes it actually valuable, so that if he even just hits the 1,007, you'll be happy. Whereas, like, if MHJ does that shit or Malik Neighbors does that, you're going to be disappointed because you have to get them in rounds 1 and 2. Whereas I got my guy all the way, like, when I reached on him, it was round 8. Like, who gives a shit?
Right. Yeah, it's all shot in the dark at that point.
All right. Carolina Panthers at New Orleans Saints. We were just talking about this a little bit. 42.5 point over under. I weirdly like this game a lot for fantasy. Don't ask. This is the ultimate Robitussin game. Chris Olave is going to be viable. That's guaranteed, so you can start him. Taysom Hill. I would take the Taysom Hill lottery ticket this week. I feel like this is, like, again, show me the wide receiver 2 for the Saints. I'll wait. Is it Rashid Shaheed? Is it A.T. Perry? Is it fucking Bub Means? Like, who is it? And the tight end, like, that's Taysom Hill too. So Taysom Hill is everything for them. So I think I'm starting Kamara, Taysom Hill, and Chris Olave comfortably against the Panthers defense. I don't think I'm scared of the Panthers defense.
No, not at all.
The Panthers have only added Dave Canales. They've added to the offensive line. Now, granted, he won't be there in the first couple of weeks, but they've added Jonathan Brooks. They've added Xavier Legette. They've added Deontay Johnson. Like, at a certain point, like, Bryce Young has to do something, right? So, like, I'll give you a perfect example in Superflex leagues. One of my things this year was I'm going to see about punting quarterback. I want to see what that looks like and experiment with it through the year, because I feel like the disparity of me starting Russell Wilson or Bryce Young or whoever the fuck is my quarterback too, like if I waited in the chalk of my, like the big chunk of my team is just super pumped because I was able to get a bunch of guys I normally wouldn't get if I took quarterbacks. Like, I think the points there will make up a bigger difference than just that QB2. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
kind of the experiment I'm going with this year. And so now with the news with Russ, I find myself deciding, am I going to start Russ this week or am I going to start Bryce Young as my quarterback 2 in a super flex, right? And this is, again, the rest of the roster is juiced. So it's like every other spot is locked in and fine. It's just this one quarterback 2 decision. Now I'm kind of like, it doesn't really matter, I don't think, but now I'm hemming and hawing a little bit.
Hey, I get it. Those
being overlooked a lot. So I don't know. Am I just crazy or?
I think it's just managed expectations. If you're looking at the Panthers and say they're due for some points, they're due for positive regression, I think I'm in that boat too. I've got pretty good exposure to most of these players in best ball. he's not playing tonight, as you kind of talked about. But Brooks, I've got a lot of Brooks. I think he's my top 5 for running backs this year. But it's pretty simple on the Carolina side. You're starting Deontay Johnson. Absolutely loved him this year. And then Chuba Hubbard. I don't mind flexing him this week. If you went the approach and you have Jonathan Brooks and you complemented him with this, there's a couple of running backs. If you went Nick Chubb, I think Chuba Hubbard might be a guy that can kind of help supplant what you're hoping to get out of him later on. But outside of that, this is gross. It's a gross game.
I'm going to throw one more name at you, and you're going to hate me for it, but it's Adam Thielen.
Yep, I knew it.
Still hooked on a Thielen. What's funny? I look at Thielen as kind of a tight end, actually. So as opposed to, if you actually view him as a tight end that plays wide receiver, it makes it a little bit less icky, I will say. Because
why don't you talk to Yahoo and Sleeper? If I can start him as a tight end, we'll talk.
that would be insane. But so the thing is, the way that he is used on this team is he is very much like, and I said it last year, and that's why I thought he had a lot of value last year, and I still think he will retain some of that value for the first 6 weeks of this season, and that's going to really taper off as the rookies kind of really start to come on. But the fact that Deontay Johnson is actually going to be there to kind of help open things up a little bit, I think is good for Thielen, because he is very much like, when it's third down and they need first down, or when it's red zone shit, Thielen's the look. Like, he's the first look for Bryce Young, and then it's everybody else. And it's because, in those moments, like his veteran presence, his route running, his hands, like he comes through a lot of times in those moments for Bryce Young, and he did in his rookie season, which was a miserable rookie season at that. But I think you're going to see still some of that, especially in the first 4 to 6 weeks, as he's still growing under the Canales system, and you see some of these other pieces start to get integrated. By the time Brooks is back, I think full fade on Thielen. But I'm telling you, the first 4 to 6 weeks, people are going to be like, this shit again, this fucking guy again, just won't die again. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling you, this would be a good week, I think, to start Thielen if you have him. All right, and the last game on the 1 o'clock schedule, also pretty gross. The Minnesota Vikings at the New York Giants. 42.5 over under. We don't have to stick on this one too long. We're starting Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, and who else?
Aaron Jones and Devin Singletary. I get where you took them, you're probably going to have to start them. Probably flexing these guys. I think I like Singletary more than Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones will get more in the passing game, which could help his numbers beefed up, and I think Singletary's got the better chance of the touchdown. But either way, like you said, it's gross. The Giants spent a lot of money, made a trade for Brian Burns. Their front seven is going to find the ghosts that Sam Darnold sees. So if that in fact happens and he's just running for his life back there, this game's going to get nasty and ugly quickly.
Yeah, I think people are overlooking Sam Darnold's historical struggles, and they're like, oh, he never got a fair shot, and but it's like, yeah, but he also just is what he is, I think, at this point. So I'm not gonna lie, I have some sneaky shares of Nick Mullins in Dynasty leagues because I have a feeling that he will start at some point this year.
I like the call. I think it's good. I've got what's his name? Drew Lock.
Before we get into, thank you. Oh yeah, oh god, fuck. I was doing that early too. The Drew Lock stash for Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is going to play week 1 though, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so too. It's like you said, later on in the year, kind of dynasty stash.
Okay. All right. Before we get into the 4 o'clock games, let's hit a 30-second dance party.
30-second dance party.
This is how we party.
For a second there, you're like, fuck, I'm going to have to dance. All right, Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. This is actually the lowest total point spread over under for the entire week at 40.5. So I made a bold call today. I mean, it's the internet. That's what it's for, right? Someone was asking for Super Bowl winners. I said it half jokingly. I almost should have said Cleveland because it would have made more sense. But I think it would be really funny if the Super Bowl ended up being the Detroit Lions versus the Los Angeles Chargers. If Harbaugh comes back and Harbaugh's his way back to the Super Bowl in year one, I see the talent on defense is what it is. Like, I know Khalil Mack is older. I know Bosa struggled to stay healthy, but like, if kind of everything coalesces for the defense and they just run the shit out of the ball, like this team could end up winning 12 to 13 gross games.
Hey,
I don't really actually think that's gonna happen. I think sometimes when I'm on Twitter, I just want to watch the world burn. I actually had this as one of my I had it in red as one of my most hated matchups for fantasy. So obviously I'm not that much of a believer. But I think what are you doing here? Like Devontae Adams, and
you're starting him with no confidence. Zamir White, you're starting him but no confidence. And then same thing on the Chargers. You know, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, I get it if you need to plug them in there, but I've got no confidence with either one of them. I need to see how this is going to work. And then Trey Palmer and then Ladd McConkey. Same thing. I've got buddies that have favorites on both sides, and I just want to sit and watch. I really don't want to play this game.
Lad. I will say I am the biggest Ladd McConkey stan. There's no fucking way I'm starting week one if I can help myself. Like, I need to, like, they just were talking about Justin Herbert's lacking mobility, and we don't even know if he's 100%. Apparently, he is going to play. So, I mean, I'm very much in a wait and see mode. Now, I think Ladd McConkey, just by the nature of who else is wide receiver on this team, is going to lead this team in targets, yards, and touchdowns. That's my stance, because Josh Palmer is very much like the definition of just a guy. Like, he is James Jones reincarnate. Like, he's not a thing, like, in terms of blocking anyone from being like a wide receiver one. McConkey, that dude's got skills. Like, in terms of you just passing eye tests, like the way that he attacks the ball with his hands, the way that his feet move, like the way that he shifts his body, that's an NFL wide receiver. He's gonna have a shit ton of fucking targets. He's gonna replace essentially Keenan Allen in this offense in terms of being like working his way into the slot. I mean, Quentin Johnston's not a slot guy. Josh Palmer is not really a slot guy. So it's like, this is all Ladd McConkey to me, but this is more of a season-long play. Definitely not a week one play. And I think the Raiders defense is sneaky good. So I'm kind of out on this game. I would play Gus Bus, Zamir White, and Devontae Adams if you really held a gun to my head, but that's about it.
Yeah, Gus, you're just hoping he falls in the end zone. That's all there is to it.
All right, another gross game that we can just smash through. The Denver Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks. 42.5 total over-under. I mean, I like the Seahawks wide receivers. Not so much on Denver's side. Even Cortland Sutton, honestly, I'm nervous about this week because the Seahawks defensive backs are actually sneaky good. Bo Nix, as a rookie going into the 12, I wouldn't even want to play Javonte in this game. There is not a Denver Bronco that I want to play. If you really force, let me put it this way for you. I've got a 16-team league dynasty. Cortland Sutton's on my bench. I'm probably playing like Hunter Henry over him.
The only vote of confidence I have is they are 6-point dogs at this point. The Broncos are. So we know that Sean Payton loves to dump the ball off to his running back. So, you know, give me give me Williams or McLaughlin, depending on how deep your league is and where you're starting them. But I think both of those guys have decent chance at just racking it up in the PPR format. DK though, give me some points, man. Give me some touchdowns. Gino last year only had 4 completed passes over 15 yards, whereas the year before I think he had 15. So we're hoping to regress back in there into the touchdown forms. But outside of that, just why do we have so many gross games on week 1? Way too many.
Yeah. Besides that, between that and like the bye weeks, whoever is hired as the NFL schedule makers, like these people, holy fuck, are you ever bad at your job? Like, oh
No
my
kidding.
God. Like, seriously, like, I can't think of another job that you could be so actively bad at and keep besides like mayor of Toronto.
President of the U.S. No.
Yeah, we're getting political again. Fuck these guys. God damn it. That's not why I came here. I'm here for entertainment and football. Shut the fuck up. All right. Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? At the Cleveland Browns. 41.5 over under. I think that is bullshit. This game's definitely hitting the over. CeeDee Lamb signed his contract in time. He is going to play. I think Zeke has gross value in this game. I love Fergalicious, my guy Jake Ferguson. So I would start Dak, Fergalicious, CeeDee Lamb, and Zeke. Not fucking around with any of the auxiliary options for the Cowboys. And then flipping over to the Browns, I am nervous about Voldemort, a.k.a. Deshaun Watson. I've been out on him not just because of the massages and him being a fucking douchebag, not just because of the injuries, but because this dude's broken as a quarterback. This man's got happy feet. Like, this guy's out here dancing like a fucking penguin in the South Pole. Like, every time I watch him drop back, what should be a 5-step drop back is a 15-step drop back. Like, you talk about Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Deshaun Watson is seeing ghosts. I don't know what it is with him. Until I see that rectified, I'm kind of out on everybody except for Amari Cooper, because it's like he is going to kind of hyper target Amari Cooper and he's going to run the ball. So Watson himself will be okay for fantasy. Where it fucks up is in Njoku and Jerry Jeudy. Now, if Watson ever goes out and Jameis Winston comes in, ooh, everybody eats. Everybody's eating W's.
Yeah, I have tons of Jameis Winston on that. You talk about dynasty stash, that's the one, because Deshaun Watson just can't stay out of the massage, the blue tent. I will say, out of his 6 games he played last year, he had a QB5, QB8, and QB10 finish, and of those 6 games, he only played 16 snaps in one of them. So that's 3 of 5 games that he is just, he's getting it done. He's getting it done.
Again, you look at those games, and a lot of it comes from the rushing. He's actually running like 8 to 10 times a game, and that's what I'm talking about, where, yeah, it works for fantasy and it works for Deshaun Watson, but it doesn't work for this offense.
Well, that's why we're not Browns fans.
But that's where I'm saying, like, if you're the David Njoku owner, who I at one point thought was a tier break tight end. Like, after Njoku, people think it's Freiermuth, and I'm here to tell you, it ain't fucking Freiermuth. I'm sorry to break your hearts again. I told you guys last year, don't fucking draft Kyle Pitts in an Arthur Smith system, and I was the guy this year. Just remember, I said don't draft the Muth in an Arthur Smith tight end system. He doesn't like receiving tight ends. He likes his tight ends to bumble and stumble.
Darnell Washington, let's go.
Yeah. So getting back to Njoku, like, he really thrived with Flacco when Flacco was throwing the ball 40 to 45 times a game. If Watson is running the ball 10 times a game, he's literally taking away opportunities from the receiving core. And to me, it's like, okay, well, then I don't want the ancillary options. I only want Amari Cooper in that scenario, because Cooper, he's just locked in. Like, he's going to get his 200 fantasy points, which is between 1,000 and 1,200 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns. That's just like, that's what he's going to do on the season, assuming that he's healthy for a season, kind of no matter who the quarterback is. But where I really feel like this team kind of lives and dies is, again, by those secondary out. Like Jerry Jeudy is a viable wide receiver too that I think got a bad deal in Denver and could be a thing. I don't know if it happens with Voldemort though. That's the thing. Is like with Voldemort, he's just going to be a wormtail. He might need to get out from under that spell in order to really evolve into the wizard that he could truly be. That's why you guys are here, right? For deep cut Harry Potter analogies.
I've got so many floating through my head, and I just can't. I love it. Freaking love it.
Jerome Ford, obvious smash play in this game. I think Chubb starting on the pup list. They did really secretly bring back Deontay Foreman.
I saw he made the practice squad again.
They brought his ass back. If he starts making the active roster, that makes me a little bit more nervous because he's the kind of guy that's going to vulture the fuck out of you at the goal line. But as long as he's not playing, Jerome Ford is a smash play. And then, Dallas, we already said it was Zeke. I'm not fucking around with like Rico Dowdle or
I like Zeke this week.
On there or anything like that. All right. Last one before we get to Sunday night football. Washington Sentinels. No. The Washington Redskins. No. The Washington Commanders. That's it. The fucking Commanders. At the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 43.5 total point over under. How the fuck is this over under higher than Dallas Cleveland? Who was drunk when they made these?
I saw Dallas and Cleveland opened up at 44, but yeah, from what I'm looking at PFF and they're down at 41 now.
Yeah, it's dropped. So I don't know why, but that's crazy to me. But yeah, Washington at Tampa Bay. I mean, I will say I think this is actually sneaky, maybe a good. I think the problem that I have with this game is like I actually think both offenses are sneaky good. The problem is I also think both defenses are sneaky good. Like I think the Commanders kind of retooled a little bit on defense after shedding a bunch of dudes last year. And I think Tampa Bay just historically has had a decent defense. So that presents to me a little bit of a problem, I think, for a rookie in Jaden Daniels who's going to be starting his first game. They just traded away Jahan Dotson. So now you kind of have a little bit of tumult in the wide receiver room behind Terry McLaurin. You have old-ass fucking Zach Ertz running out there at tight end. I don't know if you want to fuck around with that. You've got, the combination of Eckler and Brian Robinson. Like, I personally, unless I'm in a desperate situation, I don't really want to start either running back. So, like, if you drafted Jaden Daniels, you're playing Jaden Daniels, especially if it's a super flex format. If it's a quarterback and you did take a backup quarterback, I would definitely maybe go, like, just to put it in perspective, if I took Jaden Daniels and ended up with Stafford or Cousins later, I'm definitely playing those guys above him this week just so I can get a sense of what
100%.
Jaden Daniels in this offense.
Cliff Kingsbury's out there about to cause us problems.
Yeah.
One thing with him, he doesn't learn his lesson. He does the same shit over and over. So I do have confidence in Brian Robinson. When they get up close to the goal line, they pound the ball in the same freaking gap every single time. So Brian Robinson, I'd be willing to start. Terry McLaurin, first read every single time. So I like those two. And Jaden Daniels, if you don't have to start him, I completely take the safe route. But at the same time, it's so tempting not to.
Tampa's the easy one, I think, obviously. If you have them, you're starting Baker Mayfield. You're starting, again, assuming that this is a super flex, right? Like, you're starting Baker Mayfield. You're starting Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. You're starting Rashad White here. The one I want to ask, can Cade Otton take a step? Is that a thing? Or is that just wish casting from the fantasy world?
I wasn't a big Cade Otton guy last year, just kind of watching how that offense worked. But this is, they say they're rolling out the same offense again, but, they're moving Chris Godwin around. So I think that's really going to be the big tell for me. How does this offense evolve from what they were doing last year? Does it put Otton in a position that he can see more? That's what the coaches were kind of talking about. I think it was, we were getting blurbs from them around like June, May time period, like how they want to use Otton, put him in more involved in the offense. But I don't know. So offense just isn't sexy to me. I think they overperformed last year, and I just think they're going to fall a little short of what they did there.
All right. Again, we are up to 16 little eyeballs in that top corner. If any of you guys have questions before we get into Sunday and Monday Night Football here, feel free to drop them. We will hit them in between the matchups. We'll have a couple streamers, and then we're going to get the hell out of here so that we can go enjoy some Thursday Night Football. Yeah.
Let's
All right.
go football.
Sunday Night Football. The Los Angeles Rams at the Detroit Lions. 51.5 point over under. Oh, baby. This is probably my favorite matchup of the week besides Jags Fins. This is, to me, is everybody's in. I'm playing it's a dome game. The Lions are at home. Bro, I don't give a shit who I got. They are all going. I will even go so far as to say that in deep enough leagues, I would stream Colby Parkinson, who's one of my favorite tight end sleepers.
That was the one guy I was going to bring up because everybody else it's on auto start. You really don't have to think about it. But yeah, Colby Parkinson, I think when you have an over-under the way you do, over the last 3 years, the Lions have been susceptible to points through the tight end. I think they were bottom 10 the last 3 years. So if anybody's like picking a touchdown, like an anytime touchdown score, I'm going Colby Parkinson. It's plus money right there for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a sneaky DFS star throw. That's one that was, like I said, one of my favorite sleepers, doing a lot of my builds in tight end premium leagues. I mentioned Megala Bowl yesterday. The other draft that I had yesterday was my last home league draft. Ironically enough, this was a league that I tried to just let fade into the distance, and they just refused to let it die. So now the name of it, quite literally, the league that wouldn't die. And not only that, it grew. Fucking used to be 10 people. Now we're up to 12. It's a 12-man league.
That's awesome. To
make it more fun this year, it was already super flex, but I juiced the scoring to make it kind of similar to Scott Fishbowl.
Okay.
So that it's got like super tight end premium. And so what I did, there was another guy like really, and I told, bro, for a month, I told these people, check the scoring. Come draft day, there's only one guy that goes quarterback, tight end off the bat. And he's like, did y'all check the score? I'm like, if they didn't, I fucking told them enough times. Like, I was annoying about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, but what I did was I ended up getting my favorite tight end, which is Evan Ingram. I got sniped on Fergalicious. I was going to take him, but then I took all my sleeper guys at the end. So I have Jatavian Sanders. I have Colby Parkinson. I have, I think it's Musgrave. Was the other one. So it was like, I just peppered a lot of those guys late. And Parkinson could literally crack my lineup this week, potentially.
I like it. I think I've got him in Scott Fish as well, or not as well, but yeah. He's fun. He's fun this week, as well as everybody else. Kyron, Puka, Cup, St. Brown.
Yeah, I mean, even Jameson Williams. If you believe in Jameson Williams and you drafted him, this is the game to play him. Because if he isn't hitting this game, that's not a good sign. Not that you have to give up on him after 1 week, but this would be a week for him to show the fuck up. But otherwise, you said, Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, Goff, Amon-Ra, they're all in. Kyron, Puka, fucking Cup, everybody. Even fucking Demarcus Robinson, you could sneak into some sneaky DFS starts.
I don't hate it.
What I do hate is this Monday Night Football matchup. The New York Jets at the San Francisco 49ers. Those poor fucking Jets. Can we not take it easy on the New York Jets? After last season losing Aaron Rodgers in essentially the first fucking couple plays of the season, we got to send these motherfuckers on the road to face the 49ers defense.
And did you see, too, the guy that tackled Aaron Rodgers on that Achilles play? he now plays for the Niners, Leonard Floyd.
Oh,
So, like, you talk about a screwed up, like, schedule maker. This is why it's screwed up, because they wanted this one game to fit into the Monday
this
night.
is morbid. This is like the schedule maker was made by fucking dentists. Like, because they're sadists. That's the only way. They have to be sadistic sons of bitches to be sending the New York Jets on the first week on Monday Night Football. Not even just like, bro, if it was a Sunday game, even at least like it kind of gets Monday night primetime football. Aaron Rodgers, you ayahuasca drinking, darkness retreat having motherfucker. You're going against the 49ers defense. Good fucking luck with that. Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, nobody else?
Check.
I don't even want to play them, honestly. Like, and you have to. On the 49ers side, Brandon Ayuk finally re-signing with the team. So status quo for them, I guess. I mean, there might be a little bit of ramping up for Ayuk, just because we've seen that before. If you miss training camp, it can take a couple weeks, especially if you have as talented of a team as Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey all playing behind you. Obviously, Elijah Mitchell going down with a season-ending injury. Had people scrambling for Jordan Mason on waivers. I actually had a couple deeper leagues where I made some claims on Isaac Guerrero. Kind of sneaky. So on the 49ers, let me ask it in a better way. Who would you sit on this team? Would you sit Brandon Ayuk for a better option if you had it?
If I am having to sit one of these guys, I think it would be Ayuk for the reasons you named. And then also because of the that sticky fella over there that plays for the Jets, that saucy man, Mr. Gardner himself. I don't know if he will be shadowing Ayuk, but on the chances that they're shadowing somebody, it will be Ayuk. And anytime he lines up across from him, it's going to be trouble, especially with George Kittle. Hassan Reddick, who has been holding out for the Jets for looking for a contract, the linebacker, he's not going to be out there. So that might just play more into George Kittle's ability to find that soft spot in the opening for this team.
All right. Well, that wraps up our matchups and start sits recap for week 1 of NFL football. Before we get on out of here, we've got some defensive and kicking streamers for you guys.
Don't tell me. We're about to go over a huge waterfall.
Yep,
Sharp rocks at the bottom?
most likely.
Bring it on.
So we'll start with our defensive streamers. I kind of teased them a little bit earlier. I'm going to start us off with the Cincinnati Bengals, one of the lowest over-unders of the entire week. They are playing at home against the New England Patriots. Jacoby Brissett, as much as he is a veteran presence at quarterback, not historically a guy who's going to go out and blow you the fuck up. I do think the Bengals defense is underrated. Trey Hendrickson last year had like 17 sacks. So I think the Bengals are going to be wanting to come out with a hot start too. If Chase plays especially, I think they're going to boat race the Patriots here. And I like the defense, especially if they get up real fast, real early, and kind of force the Patriots to throw more than they wanted to. I definitely could see some turnovers and maybe a bit of a lower score on the Patriots side here. So that's my first defensive streamer. Who do you got, Brian?
First one I'm going to throw out there is going to be the Seahawks. You alluded to the secondary for the Seahawks being they're pretty good. They drafted pretty well between the safety and the DBs over there. So I really like them playing against Denver. It's Bo Nix. It's a rookie quarterback, first game. They don't have elite playmakers out there. So give me a little Hawk action.
Ooh, some Hawk Tua. That's perfect. You know what, Brian, since you fucking stole my defensive, no, I'm joking. But that was, I had 3. Seahawks would have been the second one, so I'll skip that one. I'm going to get back at you, though. The Houston Texans, my guy. I'm streaming the Houston Texans this week. I think the Colts will be good, I think week one, they're definitely going to have some struggles. I think Anthony Richardson, with all of his 17 games of experience, will be a little bit rusty because of the injury last season. And I look at Adonai Mitchell, a rookie wide receiver trying to grow into his role. Outside of Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor, I don't really see a lot of options for this offense. I think A-Rich very prone to the turnover. Aside from his physical acuities, he is definitely prone to turn the ball over. And the Houston Texans defense, very underrated how much improved they were last season. And that's the type of thing I usually watch out for is if you see a team go from like dead last in defense to middle of the pack, the season after that, they usually keep improving and end up cracking the top 12. So I'm really high on the Houston Texans for just the entire season. But coming out week one against a division rival, they'll be on the road, but wanting to prove something, I think, in the Colts building. And again, I see A-Rich as potentially being a little turnover prone. I'm going with the Texans here.
Nice. I don't hate it. The Colts, we love to lose week one, so they might just hand it over to the Texans. Streaming defense, it's weird because they're barely owned, 9% in Yahoo leagues, but the Falcons, with the news compounding of just the calf injury, so we might get a hurt Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields. Both of them turnover-prone guys. While also, if you look at what the Falcons did in the offseason, they just recently made a trade for Judon, add some pressure there on the defensive line. While also, they have A.J. Terrell, the defensive back. They have Jesse Bates, who they signed, and then they just recently went out and got Simmons, the safety from Denver. So this defense is quietly adding some playmaking pieces. And that's kind of what I look for. Like, everybody knows who the elite top to bottom defenses are going to be. Well, if I can't grab those, the streaming guys I like to have are, Colts are kind of usually one of them. Teams that can force turnovers, force pressures, force situations where you get either turnovers or touchdowns. They're not a sticky stat. You can't really predict those things, but you can look for the players that usually cause those issues. And the Falcons, I think, will be one of them.
I love that call for a couple reasons. One, I think, again, I said earlier, people always ask me about the Steelers, and I think they expect optimism, whereas, like, I have historically always been a very pessimistic fan. And it's like, I don't think the Steelers are shit this year. And when you talk about the Falcons, I think the Falcons were an underrated defense last year that got better during the offseason. And I think the reverse Arthur Smith revenge game is coming. They are going to want to get the revenge on the old coach versus the old coach trying to get revenge on them. So I think that's a fantastic call. I had the Seahawks would have been the third, but did you have another one to throw at us?
I'll throw out the Buccaneers. We talked about like the volatility we could see between the Bucs and Washington. They do only have Terry McLaurin, who's confident to throw it. So if they're gobbling him up, then maybe Jaden Daniels makes some mistakes. He is a rookie as well, so I think that could put the Buccaneers in a good position to get some turnovers.
All right, this is where we're gonna get real down and dirty now. Streaming kickers for those leagues out there, the few, the proud, the loyal that still have fucking kickers in your league. This is for you. Streaming kickers, I'll let you go first this time. Who you got?
Well, it's kind of a dark horse player, but Justin Tucker, have you heard of him? He's
he's like a young guy coming out of Baltimore, isn't it?
I think it's Baltimore. It's one of the Harbaugh coaches. Let the Colts fan do his thing. I'm going to take Matt Gay. They are playing Houston. As you said, this defense could play well, and if Richardson's not able to convert and they're kicking quite a bit, Matt Gay might be in a position where he can get you 3-ish field goals, and if they turns into a shootout, he's going to have a few extra points tacked on there as well.
All right, I'm going to hit you with one. This is not just for week one, though it is a great week one play. This is season long. Daniel Carlson, the disrespect on Daniel Carlson's name. All this man did for you was finish as the number one kicker in all of fantasy football, backed to back. Back to back. And last year was a shit year for the whole team. It wasn't his fault. He had his lowest attempts since like his second or third season. Lowest attempts in like the last 4 years. So now you bring in Minshew and some competent quarterback play, and potentially again Zamir White kind of steadying the boat in the running back room. We kind of saw a little bit of that towards the end of the season last year. I think his field goal attempts will go up, and then I look at this week 1 matchup against the Chargers. This definitely feels like a game where it's like both teams could end up kicking the ball 3 to 4 times. I think Daniel Carlson, great play this week and great play all year, I think. Sneaky play for the Raiders.
Dude, I didn't realize he's 6'5", 215. That's a big kicker. That's a big freaking kicker.
I know. He's got a leg on him, dude. He's fucking good. Like, people, again, he was the #1 kicker in all of fantasy for back-to-back years, and he's going undrafted. Like, in leagues where kickers matter, like in leagues that I'm in where the kicking points are like, it goes like 3, 4, 5 once it's like 30, 40, 50, which I think is stupid as fuck. Like, you're telling me a kicker can go out and get 20 points if he just kicks 4 50-yard field? Like, okay, whatever. But I'm saying, like, Carlson has that capability. Like, he is as good as the elite kickers in the NFL. So, and the fact that you can just pick them up off waivers, probably in every league that you're in, yeah, I love it. So, we are spending way too much time on this. Who is your second streaming kicker?
Give me Jason Myers, kicker out of Seattle. Like we said, we've talked about the game script. It should look pretty good for Seattle. They should be in position to score some points. So, toss them on there.
Go fuck yourself.
Bro's just stealing all my fucking Seattle streamers that I had.
I see it now.
All right, I love it. It's just we'll end a little bit earlier. It's great. Cairo Santos for the Chicago Bears finished top 5 last year, and now arguably has an upgrade at quarterback. I also had Jason Myers as a streaming kicker this week, so I think that's also a great play. Who would have been your last guy?
Oh, Greg Zuerlein. I thought his career was going to end several years ago, but if the Jets aren't, I mean, they've only got 2 real playmakers. So if Aaron Rodgers is getting stalled a little bit, that defense should put him in pretty good scoring positions, or at least, good field position. So let's go Greg Zuerlein. I think they can get some points over there in San Francisco that way.
I like that one too, because I think Aaron Rodgers, assuming that he can play through the whole game, is good enough to get them just within range of like long ass field goals, like 40, 50-yard field goals. And that's what you really want. So I kind of like that call too. All right, let's get the hell out of here. It is Thursday night football. We are so back, baby. Thank you so much, everyone who came in today and watched the show. Thank you, Brian, for joining us so that we didn't have to go through all this bullshit by ourselves. Shout out to you. Tell us one more time where we find you and all your work.
Fantasy Football Advice Network. Head on over to the YouTube page. Check me out there. Too much fantasy football and too much best ball. And of course, I am all over the platform that we have, the social media page that it's Twitter, it's Facebook on steroids, but all for fantasy football. It's Fantasy Football Advice Network, little .com at the end. Come check us out. We have so much great stuff for whether you're a consumer or a creator. Great monetization opportunities for everybody.
Hell yes. Again, I don't usually do like
tongue stuff.
Yeah, I do a lot of tongue stuff apparently. No, I was gonna say I don't promote stuff on the show too much, but Fantasy Sports Advice.network, they are pretty fucking neat, so go check them out. But at the same time, if you guys want to super kick that subscribe button and do all that algorithmic bullshit, it really helps us out on the show. But until the next time, which will be Sunday morning, the lives are back, baby. We're going to be getting ready for some Sunday morning football. We'll be there at 9 a.m., bright, early, bushy-tailed. So until then, I will catch all of you guys on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.